"You're stealing our land," Karen Morrison screamed, jabbing her finger right in my face like she was trying to poke out my eye. Now, I'd only been unloading boxes from my truck for maybe 12 minutes. Honestly, I was just trying to get my coffee maker inside, when this HOA president storms across my lawn, acting like she's the sheriff of some one-horse town. She's got that clipboard up like a riot shield, telling me I'm trespassing on my own property. My entire inheritance, $580,000, every last penny I had just gone into buying this so-called dream house, the one she now claimed belonged to her precious association. The rage hit me like a truck, but then I noticed something that just about froze the blood in my veins. Her fancy community center? Yeah, that building sat right on the spot my deed said was my property line. So, either I'd just been robbed blind, or this self-anointed queen had built her HOA castle on land she never owned. If you think that's wild, buckle up, because this story just gets crazier the deeper you go. So, picture this. The moving truck barely rolls out, and I'm standing on a wraparound porch, soaking up the crisp autumn air, sunlight sparkling off the lake, thinking life might finally be turning my way. The house is a classic, 1920s beams, stone fireplace, the kind of lakeside view that makes you sell everything and start over. Then I hear it, the voice. Sharp, barking orders getting closer. I turn, and here comes this woman, maybe mid-50s, coral polo tucked tight into khakis, designer sunglasses on her head, even though it's cloudy. She's walking across what I thought was my front yard like she owns the world, HOA badge glinting like a sheriff's star. "Sir, you need to stop what you're doing right now," she says, just about daring me to argue. I set down my box and try to play it cool. "Is there a problem?" I ask. She stops about 10 feet away, gives me the full glare, and introduces herself. "I'm Karen Morrison, president of the Lakeside Estates Homeowners Association, and you are trespassing on community property." You could hear the capital letters in her voice. Years of writing angry emails to city council, I bet. She tells me the house and land were donated to the HOA in 1985, so I have no right to be here. I blink, trying to process that. Behind her, I see the HOA showpieces, brick community center, tennis courts, landscaping so neat it looks fake. But all I can think is, "Ma'am, I think there's been a misunderstanding." I pull out my deed, stamped by the county, signed and notarized, official as it gets. She won't even look at it. "I don't care what papers someone convinced you to sign," she says. "That house sits on land that belongs to this community." And she's so certain, it's honestly scary. But something just doesn't add up. The house is old, like 1920s old. Giant oaks, stone foundation. The whole vibe screams private legacy, not HOA cookie cutter. So I asked her to show me the paperwork for this supposed donation. She flushes, says the previous owners wanted to benefit the community, and her husband Richard handles all their legal affairs. And wouldn't you know it, here comes Richard Morrison himself, straight out of a lawyer catalog. Silver hair perfect, suit probably worth more than my Civic. He shakes my hand with a grip that's just a bit too long and immediately suggests we resolve this quickly and quietly, offering to help me recover money I lost to fraud. The condescension is thick enough to spread on toast. But I show them my email from the county, tax records updated, deed filed. Now I'm the one paying property taxes. Karen's hand shakes on her clipboard. "That's impossible. We're tax exempt as a community organization. For what you own," I point out, "but if you don't actually own this land." Richard coughs, clearly stalling, and says he'll straighten things out with the county. But now my curiosity is burning. I whip out my phone, fire up my survey app, and start walking the boundary. White oak tree, stone marker, down to the lake and back. The old stone marker even has private property, 1924, carved in it, half covered by weeds. By the time I finish my circuit, it's painfully obvious my property line runs right through the middle of their precious community center. Karen starts ranting about their permits and architectural plans, but she can't hide the panic. "Karen, you said the land was donated in 1985, but your community center was built in 1987. Who gave you permission to build?" She looks at me like I've grown a second head. "We didn't need permission. We own the land. Except all these boundary markers say otherwise." Richard tries to go full lawyer, grabbing the deed, calling it a forgery, threatening to confiscate it as legal counsel. I've had enough. That's filed with the county, and you're not a cop, I say, standing my ground. Karen pulls out her phone to call the sheriff, but I call her bluff. Please, I'd love an official witness for your tax-exempt operation on land you never owned. The color drains out of their faces. They back off, promising more lawyers, but I know the game has changed. That night, I spread every legal doc I've got across my dining room table, battle plans. I call in Lena Ortiz, a land use attorney, and Rafi Coleman, a surveyor. Turns out, my boundaries don't just cover the house. They swallow up nearly the entire HOA complex. The kicker? County archives prove the land was owned by Robert Thompson, a surveyor who built the place in 1924, passed to Vicki Williams in '83, and then to me. No gaps, no transfers, no donations, just a line of property taxes paid every single year. But the HOA's 1985 incorporation paperwork? Full of grand claims, zero proof. I tracked down Susan, Vicky's niece, and she's stunned. Aunt Vicky never donated anything to an HOA. She lived here, used the land, paid the taxes, never said a word about giving it away. She shows me photos, Vicky gardening in what's now the community garden, family BBQs in the so-called HOA parking lot. No trespassing signs everywhere, until they mysteriously vanished when Vicky got sick. According to Susan, the HOA crowd started getting bolder as Vicky's health declined, using her driveway, holding events, acting like they own the place. Vicky was too polite to fight them, but it gnawed at her. Suddenly the picture comes clear. Karen and her crew bullied an old woman, expanding inch by inch until they convinced themselves and everyone else they were the rightful owners. But taxes don't lie. The county assessor confirms Vicky paid every year. The HOA's tax-exempt status only applies to what they legally own. People think tax exemption means you own the land, the deputy clerk tells me, but ownership is what matters. Tax exemption follows that, not the other way around. Armed with proof, I talk to residents like Bob Patterson, the old-timer who walks his retriever past the center. He's floored when I show him the survey. Karen always said it was all above board. We trusted her, and that's the real twist. Most of these folks never meant harm. They just trusted the wrong person. That night, Karen calls, voice like ice. Stop harassing our residents. Meet me tomorrow at 10 a.m. in the community center to discuss the terms of your immediate departure, or we'll pursue every legal remedy. The audacity. She's demanding I meet her in an office, sitting squarely on my property. I agree, because now I'm not backing down. The next morning, I walk into that fancy brick building, past plaques and pictures of ribbon cuttings, right into Karen's corner office. Lake view, mahogany desk, Richard by her side, a check for $50,000 and a settlement waiver already waiting for me. Take this, admit you were scammed, and move on, Richard says. But I lay out my deed, survey, tax records, and ask if they know where we're sitting. Karen frowns. We're in my office in our community center, on our property. According to county records, I tell her, this entire building sits on land I own. Show me where you ever legally acquired it. Silence. Richard fumbles. Karen's face goes pale. Desperation kicks in. The previous owner said we could use it, Karen offers, but that's not ownership. Permission isn't title, and Vicky's family never gave even that. You've never paid taxes here, I point out, because you never owned it. Richard tries to claim adverse possession, but I shoot that down. You have to pay taxes and use it openly, which they never did. Suddenly Karen's phone buzzes. A resident has heard the rumors. The word is out. Richard finally admits, if this deed and survey are accurate, this entire building sits on land we never owned. Their authority is slipping away with every sentence. What do you want? Karen asks, voice barely above a whisper. First, acknowledge my property rights, I say. Then we can talk about solutions. They're defeated, and I leave, letting them stew in the mess they made. Walking through the halls, I see the real tragedy. These people built something real, something good. But they did it by stealing, by lying, by taking from those too weak to fight back. That night, someone slashes my tires, scratches "Leave now or else" into my hood. But now I'm just mad, not scared. I call the sheriff, document everything. By noon, county trucks show up, utilities, code enforcement, all responding to bogus complaints. Karen's using every connection she has to squeeze me out. Then I get a threatening text. My elderly friend Dorothy at the care center had a little fall, and they'd hate for something worse to happen. That's the line. Dorothy's family has the last box of Robert Thompson's survey maps, and she tells me, "Honey, my great-grandfather mapped and owned 12 acres here, not just your little plot." Turns out, the HOA stole not just my land, but almost the entire lakeshore, community center, tennis courts, boat launch. All of it was Thompson family property. With Dorothy's documents, Michael's help, and a whistleblower paralegal named Emma, we uncover years of dirty tricks. Fake heirs, forged sales, threats against families, and the county clerk in on the scam. We go public. News cameras, FBI, 8 victim families, piles of evidence. Helen Johnson from WCVB goes live as the demolition crew rolls up to bulldoze my house. Karen directing, thinking she'll erase the proof. But the broadcast stops them in their tracks. Viewers see the truth. Drone shots overlaying Robert's maps onto the present day, all the fraud laid bare. The FBI arrives, crime scene tape goes up, and Karen's empire crumbles live on TV. Lawsuits, indictments, community meetings. By the end, the HOA is dissolved, stolen land returned, millions paid out in damages, and Karen and Richard Morrison headed to federal prison. Even Jerry Thompson, the crooked clerk, gets hauled off for falsifying records. But the real story isn't just about punishment. It's about rebuilding. Dorothy gets to see her family's name honored. Emma and I start a legal aid group for elder property rights, making sure nobody else gets steamrolled. Karen, after prison, even works to help other families she once harmed, living proof that even villains can choose redemption if they face the truth. The town, once divided by secrets, becomes a model for transparency, justice, and real community. And me? I still live in that lake house, the one Karen tried to claim, watching kids play in yards that finally truly belong to them. So here's my question for you. How far should a community go to right the wrongs of its past? Is forgiveness possible when trust is shattered? I want to hear your take. Drop your thoughts below, share your HOA stories, and let's talk about what justice really looks like right here, right now. 19.